Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guests are the husband and wife team of Sharon and Mark Stewart. They're here to talk about an upcoming fundraiser for the Halo Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Scott.
So, Mark, this is your first time, but your wife, she's kind of like a frequent flyer.
First time for everything.
Yeah.
To him, it's no problem.
So, did you have to drag him on, or was he willing?
He was willing. When I told him, I said, Scott won't do the show without you.
Yeah.
That brought him here.
You kind of fibbed, in
Yeah.
other words. So, so you're here to talk about the fundraiser that's coming up on June 3rd, and it's for the Halo Foundation.
It's sponsored by the Friends of Halo, and it's a dance benefit at the Elks Club. $10 a person, and what we try to do is bring the whole community together. The Halo Foundation has reached out and helped the community, people with cancer in our area. You know that, I know that. We've done numerous benefits for them. The problem is that more people are getting sick than what we have able to help them. So Mark and I decided that it was time to really do some kind of push for them.
Right. And the story of the Halo Foundation is that it was founded by the Wright family because their mother died of Mary Wright died of cancer, and then weeks later
the father died.
The father ended up dying. So instead of just grieving, they decided to start this fundraiser, and they don't just give out money, but they'll help pile your wood.
Yeah.
They will help pile your wood, mow your lawn, and everything. So, and all the money stays local.
And all the money stays local. I got involved when my friend, in 2 years, I lost 7 friends in their 50s to cancer. And my first friend I started for the fundraiser for was Doris Ryan. And Doris meant the world to me, but she was a single mother raising 4 teenage daughters. And I was witness to see what Halo did for her. They reached out to her when she needed income. She was a waitress. She was trying to take care of her teenage girls and pay her medical expenses at the same time. She's one of 7 that I know for sure that they've reached out and helped.
Right. And now, cancer has come a little closer to you because you both have worked for years at raising money to help people who have cancer.
That's
now
right.
let's talk. Now I don't know which one you want to talk about at first.
For me, I'm an advocate for health. I've been a pusher of staying healthy, eating right, exercise, preventative medicine. I've worked to strengthen the community. I've done free walking, whatever. And my family's all been involved. My husband's been my #1 supporter. And we've, challenged through all of these fundraisers. I never guessed in a million years that I would wake up one morning and it would strike our family.
And so, Mark, you now have cancer.
It's a form of cancer, yeah. It's called GIST. It's a gastrointestinal stromal tumors, and it's treated by medicine, fortunately.
Right.
There aren't any extreme or long-term treatments required at this point. So, and we've been able to, once on the medication, get back to normal. As long as I'm on the medication, everything seems to be okay.
But when you heard cancer, even though you've seen her, you've had friends, but when you heard cancer, what went through your mind?
Well, everything goes to your kids, your family, what's going to happen in 10 years. I mean, where's everybody going to be? Where am I going to be?
Right.
And not knowing, and then you go through a myriad of tests, and you go to this doctor, that doctor, this hospital, and get a bunch of needles stuck in you, and finally you come up with a diagnosis. But till then, it's a little scary. And the biggest awakening to me was when we were at Dana-Farber, and we looked around and saw, how many people there are with this sickness and being treated down there. It's pretty sad. But fortunately for us, again, it's a treatable form, and things appear to be normal. But
It's month to month. He's on it for the rest of his.
And that's, what is that, a mere $10,000 a month for that?
Well, apparently the medication costs about $11,000 a month. But again, Blue Cross is covering that expense. I don't know what they pay for it exactly, but there are programs at Dana-Farber for those that either don't have insurance or do and can't cover their share of it. There are programs where they make the medication available, whether it's through their program or actually through the pharmaceutical companies.
You know, I don't, also, your journey to even being diagnosed was an interesting one. It took several months for
6
them
months,
to.
I think we worked at it.
Well,
We worked
yeah.
at it.
It was August of last year when it all started. So,
Well, you all worked out together.
Yeah, and, but I did, yeah, because you used to, I think you're back to working out now, right? Working, and, but for a time there, I think you were losing your energy, and you were losing weight, and they still couldn't put their fingers on what was wrong. I think you were diagnosed with ulcers.
yes, stomach ulcers. It was kind of masked by stomach ulcers. That's that's what's wrong with you. You know, your red blood cell count's low, your hemoglobin count's low. That's it's the ulcers, and so I was treated for the ulcers, and ultimately, once the ulcers were cured, not a problem. It was still an issue, so we knew something else was wrong.
And
that's
so
when
you were eventually diagnosed, Burlington, was it?
Boston, Dana-Farber.
Oh, so you were, that's where you were
Yeah.
eventually diagnosed. And Dana-Farber is a great hospital, I understand.
It's amazing. You know, I never would guess that cancer, they have so many leaps and bounds to cures now towards fighting this illness. The problem is that it's everywhere. And like Mark and I had such a life-changing experience down there. And then we come home to find that it's everywhere, and we can't help our neighbors. Do you see what I mean? There's just so many of them. But to bring them all together and unite in a community event with the band and dancing and fun, that is what our purpose of doing this is.
And I've even helped, we worked together to get our two special guests who are going to be doing any announcing.
That's
is
right.
Devaney Shawkat of this area, and Tim Kavanaugh, who we both grew up
Yeah.
with, who lives in the Burlington area. And the thing is
They both have cancer.
they both have cancer.
Yeah.
And so what went through your mind? Because you've lost friends to cancer, and you've even lost family members. What went through your mind when you heard he had cancer?
Oh, I was devastated. I grew up with cancer, and I watched my mother suffer horribly through it with the side effects of chemotherapy, and I was terrified. I was so terrified. And for the outcome to have been so much easier than what I expected. I expected the chemo, the surgeries, I didn't know what not to expect because I'd seen it all before. This leaps and bounds in cancer recovery, this chemo pill that they're touting is a miracle drug. When we got to Dana-Farber, this doctor that works with Mark told him 10 years ago he'd have a 3-month life expectancy, that people didn't live past 3 months. And then they discovered this chemo pill, and I kept asking him, what's the expectancy here? What do we have to look forward to? And he said that people that took the pill 10 years ago are still alive.
Right.
So in 15 years, Sharon, come back and ask me what the success rate is.
And the other thing is we have a mutual acquaintance, is Dr. Les Lockridge,
Yeah.
who's an oncologist who was trained at Dana-Farber, and he said, with today's technology, with cancer treatment, he said this is really an exciting time in the cancer research, because even if he talks about people who are being treated now with a certain kind of drug, even if it stops working in 10 years, there'll be something new.
At Dana-Farber, the doctors, I mean, they're very bright people at Harvard Medical School. I mean, that's who they're connected with, and they did say that if this pill doesn't work, we go to this one, then we go to this one, then we go to. I mean, there's 3 backups.
Right.
That for whatever reason, if it doesn't, and you have to assume that in 5 to 8 years, something else is going to come out.
Right.
I mean, it's just, as you said, as technology grows, the treatments, the ability for them to find new treatments grows.
I had a brother-in-law die. I don't know. Well, it was probably it was probably about 12 years ago, of kidney cancer, and that was back when kidney cancer, if you got it, you could survive it. Some people could, but now kidney cancer is largely survivable, and you might not beat these forms of cancer because you're not ever going to be cured. Correct?
No.
It's treated.
Correct. It's at this point
Manageable.
it's managed.
Manageable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is even in the world of cancer, you don't always talk about the word cure. It's
Right.
treated. It's
Right.
like diabetics. Most diabetics, well, they say no diabetics will ever be cured. It's managed.
Right.
So
You
I
know,
guess we have to have a new mindset on this whole cancer
I don't
thing.
believe that because you have cancer, it's a death sentence. I believe that it's a life sentence. You just have to live with it. You
Right, right.
follow me? Years ago, when they said you had cancer, you thought that was it.
And
You
it
had a
probably
death
probably
sentence.
true.
And now, fast forward 20 years, people, it's livable. People
Right.
live there's people living 30. My mother's a 40-year survivor
Right.
of cancer. If you would have asked her in 1975, I don't think she would have thought she was going to make it till she was in her late 70s.
Okay, Mark, you have to bow out early from this show to actually get to work, and because you hardly even missed work.
I didn't really miss, other than trips to the doctors.
And you're an architect
Yeah.
by trade, and because that was the one thing. Even when you couldn't come to class to work out with us, you managed to get behind the wheel of that
Yeah.
truck and car or whatever and go.
That's why we're so thankful. We were spared. We had angels that walked with us, and we were given a path, and I believe that God sent us on this path of resiliency, and so we came back to establish this party.
Right.
And this is our way of giving back to the community.
All right, since you have to leave, Mark, in a bit, why is this important to you?
Well, I mean, it seems like every other day we hear families that are being affected by cancer, and it's something that we can do, as much as we can do,
Right.
to help, people with expenses related to the illness, and so they can get to their treatments and actually pay their expenses.
And people say, there are some people who haven't been touched by a serious health issue, but wait, you have insurance.
Yeah.
Now, but there's so much with health care, like if you're going to Dana-Farber, maybe in your case you're okay, but there's other people who,
Exactly.
there's that gas money, there's the food money, there is missed work and things that insurances don't pay.
Well, we're very, very fortunate that Mark was able to go to work, because then we could keep our insurance. But it's a catch-22. It's a vicious cycle. If he can't work, we can't afford our insurance. We couldn't afford the chemo.
Right.
Thank God he can work. Thank God the insurance is straight and he has his chemo. So we are so fortunate that makes us want to reach out and help more people that
Right.
aren't as fortunate.
Right. And because I knew you were, when you talked to me about hosting this event, you also didn't want it to be about the Mark and Sharon Stewart show.
No.
And
Absolutely not.
because so cancer, you're no stranger to cancer. You've even lost a brother,
Lost my
in,
brother
in his
Barry.
in his 50s.
Yes.
And
Late 50s, yeah.
did I? No, I think Sharon was telling me there's even a question now that very possibly his cancer could have been your kind, but
I don't know. I really
They
don't.
don't
I don't
know
know the
that now.
details at the time. It was a few years ago, but
Mark's cancer is genetic, so
Right.
it's nothing that was incurred from smoking or
Right.
bad health. It was a genetic, rare, aggressive form of intestinal tract cancer. So, in all likelihood, any of the brothers could have had it.
and now do your children have to be tested for it at some point? And
well, I think that's a question we need more information on. We did mention it when we were at Dana-Farber, and it didn't seem like we got the answer that we needed, but I think in the future it's probably a good thing.
Right. And I think the one thing, just because of the nature of how you're probably also an advocate of if you know something's wrong with your body, and what I tell people is a good doctor will not mind a second opinion.
Right.
You probably advocate now for second opinions,
Always,
don't you?
always, always. I think that because I'm so pushy, I think I pushed. I just knew in my heart that something wasn't right. You have a gut instinct when you know there's something is not right. You know the difference between someone being sick and someone being really sick and someone having cancer. And it might have been my imagination, but I just felt that my husband was not himself. I felt like he wasn't getting better. I felt like he was getting worse, even though he'd followed all his instructions, and he took good care of himself. 5 years ago, he was on high blood pressure medicine, right? High cholesterol medicine.
About 8 years ago.
8 years ago. And Dr. Tremblay told him to lose weight. He was borderline diabetic. And so we started the workout program, and he lost all his weight, came off all his meds. He wasn't really in healthy condition. In fact, he didn't even show any signs of an ulcer. You wouldn't have known he was sick unless he wasn't so exhausted. That's the strange part about it.
And as I have friends who are doctors, and they'll all tell you that no doctor in their right mind is going to mind you getting a second opinion. And they said, if any doctor minds you getting a second opinion, you're at the wrong doctor. Because, doctors want to be second guessed, professionally second guessed. So that's, because they don't want to make, errors either.
But there's some doctors that think that they know all the answers and they're in control. It depends, and you have to know your own body. It's the same thing with if you're running and you have like myself training for a race. It's not that I have a knee injury, but if I have a symptom of a knee injury, I get it taken care of. Then it doesn't become an issue.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? If people come to me and say, oh my gosh, my knees are tight, my back is tight, first thing I say is take care of the initial issue before it becomes a chronic problem.
Right. Okay. Okay, Mark, I know you're stepping out. You're stepping out now to head out on the road. Do you have a message that you want to tell the people about the event and why they should want to attend?
Well, first of all, it's going to be a lot of fun, I assume. I think there'll be a fair number of people there, and hopefully the music's good, and I'm sure Tim will keep us entertained with his
We have
hosting.
lots of raffles too. We
There's
have a
also the
raffle going on
raffles.
all night long. People have donated everything from maple syrup to quilts
Right.
to gym memberships to tanning memberships.
Right.
The whole community has jumped in and wanted to help, so this should be quite a fun event.
And this is going to be at the Elks
Elks,
on June 3rd,
7 to 11.
7 to 11. And I heard you're going to be karaokeing. You're going to
Yes,
be singing.
I'll be karaoke
Yeah.
or doing something.
Yeah. So, any final word?
Well, you have the tickets, right, available through.
Tickets are still on sale. You can get them through me. You can get them at the Elks Club, or you can get them at Pie and Pasta.
Pie and Pasta,
Okay? And throughout the area, people have grabbed tickets and said, I'll sell them for you. So they're out there and they're ready to go.
And also be at the door.
at the door.
All right. So,
Even if you stop in for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and say hi to everybody, hopefully we'll be able to see people we haven't seen for a while and have like a grand old block party.
and you know,
Celebration.
And to be realistic is, I don't know if there's anybody who can say, I can't think of anybody in my family that
It's not affected by
It's
cancer.
true.
that had cancer.
Very
Granted, I will say in my family, I think we might have, on my family, the Wheeler side, I seem to think there's a little less than in some families. But my wife's family, she lost her mother to cancer, she lost her brother to cancer, she lost her mother, her brother, her father, and so that side of the family.
So
there's
out of
cancer
the
everywhere.
out of all the sadness, we hope to bring some happiness and some celebration and one night of good times.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Mark. And
Thanks,
now, once you're leaving, we'll talk all about you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So now Mark has had to leave to go off to work. How have you been during this whole thing? Because you've watched the impact of cancer on people.
It's been a shocking winter. Very emotional, very, very emotional. And I just felt like everything was falling apart at the seams, and I was not sure of where my life was going to take me, or where our life was going to take us. It was very, very tough.
How was the kids?
And my family's all been very supportive. All the family, my mother, everybody's been very good about, trying to help. It's not the beauty behind this, and like I've said, and Mark and I have said, is that we were spared.
Right.
We were spared a lot.
Right.
And so if you look at always on the positive side, is that it could have been a lot worse, but he now is functional. He's going to be able to beat this, not beat it, but live with it, right? And it could have been a lot. It could have taken a different turn. He could have had surgery. He could have been out of work. We could have lost our insurance. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have, should have, but didn't. So being positive and taking our energy and pushing it towards this event, that's helped us quite a bit.
And it's like a road, because I've been with you throughout these months, and it's like a roller coaster, because it's kind of like the stages of grief is of
Sadness,
death and dying.
yep.
You it's like a roller coaster, and then grief, and then I know you've gone through anger and
everything, sadness, anger, wanting to be mean and mad at everybody, and then you just realize that you have to just pull yourself together, and I had to be strong. I had to be strong because I have kids that depend on me. But the problem is that everybody depends on Mark.
Right.
So it's a waterfall.
Right. And it isn't that you didn't. I think you had every reason to be angry about the way this all came about. But let's be real. Where does anger really
got me nowhere.
It doesn't get you anywhere. You have a reason to be angry, but anger actually sucks your energy.
Isn't it better for me to take my anger and my energy and my sadness and put it to some good use? And that's when we came up with the event. Now every Saturday I do the Workout for Hope at the municipal building. Every Saturday I donate a fitness class to the Halo Foundation. But after a while, I can only make maybe $40 or $50 a Saturday. That's not going to help a lot. No. It does over a year period. But something like this, I'm like, let's have a benefit dance and bring the whole community together. And all the people that Halo has reached, they've all come back and said, how can we help?
Right. Yeah, and then the thing is that part about it staying local, that's important, but it also, they don't have really any administrative costs.
No.
Because, like, if you donate your money to a big organization or an institution, automatically, while their mission might be important, but automatically they skim just out of expenses right off the top. And so any amount of money, if you give $100, I don't know what percentage of it actually gets to where it's needed.
When my friends were diagnosed with cancer, and I wanted to do something, a benefit for them, right. I said to them, like I said to all of them, I'm going to work with the Halo Foundation, because I can only bring in as one little person maybe this much, but if we all work together as a team, we can bring in more. I've also seen firsthand at the beauty and the sensitivity and the encouragement that the Halo Foundation has. It was not maybe 2 weeks, and they sent Mark a check, and Mark broke down and cried. He said he couldn't believe it. This is the story behind this fundraiser, and so he said, I don't need this. We were blessed. We were blessed, and he felt so thrilled that they would think to send him something, but we ended up donating it to Terry Core because she needed it worse. And he said, Sharon, there are people in this community that need this worse than we do, right? So let's do something to help Halo help all of those people.
Yeah, and it's interesting sometimes.
And you don't have to jump through hoops. They don't ask you to go through administration. You don't have to get cards or whatever. There's something about this family and this unit that knows, and they just reach out, and they don't ask you. You don't have to ask them. They just give it to you.
Right. And the thing is the Wrights actually are kind of a fascinating family because, it'd be these Wrights, their grandmother, Annette Wright, is still alive.
Yeah.
And Annette, it would be Annette had a slew of children, and none of them, they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They know what, all the right boys and women, they know what work is like. But you take Annette and her now late husband, they were farm people, and they've raised these, who happened to be really into foster care, they were.
Yeah.
And they raised these children with not only a strong work ethic, but just a sense of community that is now passed on to their grandchildren, who are now spearheading the Halo Foundation.
It's a wonderful cause, and we have the Relay for Life, which is also amazing, but this stays right here in our community, and it helps our neighbors, and it helps our friends, and it helps those that are desperate. And cancer, I've seen firsthand, destroy an entire family. There's just one thing about insurance covering medical bills, but there's loss of work, there's not being able to pay oil bills, there's grocery bills, there's just things that we take for granted every single day.
Right. And a little bit about Todd and Devaney, who are going to be your guest MCs. It just seems so, I've written about this, is like with you, now you might, with Mark and with Devaney and with Tim, you have a couple things in common. You and Mark have raised thousands of dollars for to battle cancer and to help people with cancer. Devaney, ever since she lost her mother,
has spearheaded Relay for Life.
Yeah, and she has been a champion of causes to battle cancer, to help people with cancer. And then Tim is a very well-known entertainer in the Burlington area, and he graduated with me from North Country High School. He's also been a guest speaker at cancer events. But none of you really, even though you've been involved in this movement, all of you were touched by cancer directly at the very same time.
Yeah.
You have Devaney, who now has the same form of cancer that took her mother's life. Tim decides to partly just to educate people. He wanted to show that colon screenings are nothing to worry about. He knew he was going to be fine because he felt fine. Well, stage 2 cancer.
But it was stage 2 because it was early detection.
Right. But they say it was an aggressive, a particularly aggressive form that probably would have killed him.
Right.
And now those two are still battling, but they have an upper hand on it. And then along comes you.
And Mark, he's a testimony to early detection. He'd had his colonoscopy. He'd had his doctor. He went to his doctors every 6 months. Years early detection. I've always been an advocate of healthy lifestyles. I've always been an advocate of, and everything that he seemed to put together or to preach hit my family.
Yeah.
So I guess you just don't know.
No, because to be realistic we all know that smoking
is bad for you.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But just because you don't smoke, don't mean you're not going to be
right.
It's like radon. That occurs naturally, is a source of lung cancer as well in your home. So like we had our house tested for radon just to make sure you can go through your life trying to avoid anything that causes cancer, but there's no way to do it.
Exactly.
So you really have to stay in touch with your body. And we all, I don't know about you, but I dread going to the doctors. And but I think though my wife is like most women don't seem to mind going to the doctors.
Well, you know what the problem when you go, you're supposed to have a physical. It's something you should do, but you always go in feeling good, and somehow you always leave feeling bad.
Right.
It's a catch-22.
But my wife, it's like okay, I think I've slipped by my year physical, and I think that my wife hasn't noticed, and then it's time now. And then I really mulled over, because Dr. Lockridge and I are personal friends, and I said, do I want to go to a friend who's a doctor, or a doctor who's a friend? And I actually mulled that over a little bit, but then I said, no, he's a very accomplished, not only is he a primary, oncologist, he's a primary care doctor. And I said, seems like a great combination, because you know what, I think if something gets me still, even though my genetics don't really predisposition me to a great risk of cancer, I still think that'll eventually, I will probably face it too.
You know, I like Mark used to say, oh, we've dodged another bullet. That was Mark's favorite saying in the morning. He'd wake up and he felt up until August, he'd wake up every morning and go, Sharon, we've done it. We've dodged another bullet. And we've been together. It's our 25th anniversary this summer. And to think that it came so fast that this could all be done, it was very, very...
Well, yeah, let's be real too, we're all dying.
Oh.
We are. We are born and with an end date somewhere.
Yeah, yep.
And so we all live with something, we all, and I've known you all my life, and so I know how old you are, you know how old I am, and the fact of the matter is every day now
we get
is a
closer.
blessing.
Yeah. That's right. Every day you have is a blessing. When you wake up and you smell the coffee, or you wake up and you've got another day, you go, thank God, I've got one more day. What can I do? How can I make a difference today?
And that's it. And I tell people, every day I wake up and I'm not looking up that soil on me. If I'm on this side of the sod, no matter how bad things might seem, when I wake up on this side of the sod, because you got to admit I'm usually a pretty optimistic person, and I keep reminding myself, because you saw the wrath of cancer when you were at Dana-Farber. When my mother was down at Fletcher and at Dartmouth Hitchcock with other things unrelated to cancer, I looked at people with children who had cancer, and I'm thinking,
That's heartbreaking.
And I'm thinking, my life is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so let's make a difference.
My husband decided, well, he's not here anymore, but he decided, and I'll hold him to this, and everyone else will hold him to it. He decided to run for Team Dana-Farber in the Boston Marathon next year. So that's his bucket list. This is his goal. He wants to be part of this team, and we'll see how far that goes. It's a year away, so it's one day at a time. But in the meantime, this is going to be a great party, and I'm so excited to be able to reach out and see everybody in the community. And it's time. It's been a long winter, and it's time for everybody to have a celebration. Right. We need to have a celebration.
And again, it is on June 6th.
June 3rd.
Oh, June 3rd. June 3rd at the Elks Lodge. And who will be the band?
Raised on Radio. And who's karaoke? Me. And who's MC? Tim Kavanaugh.
Right.
And special guest star, Devaney. And maybe our guest host, Scott. I did call Darren Perrin. I messaged Darren Perrin to see if he wanted to join our...
And I did agree to go. I did agree to, even though I've helped you, I did agree to go up, even though I don't have a lot. Yes, I don't have a lot to say because you guys have done such a good job.
But you'll still have a good time. Actually, we'll give you the job of pulling the numbers.
Pulling the numbers.
Of all the raffles. You like to give away prizes.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you
for having me again.
And I'm sure you'll be back on with your other hat in the world of fitness.
There we go. Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.